This was not a fleet, it was enough. The first signal appeared at night. On radar, a single point moved slowly across the sky. Too large to be a satellite and too deliberate to be a meteor. People at the observation centers did not believe their eyes at first. One object was all that was needed. Not a fleet, not a formation, just a single presence. And it was enough. At the Space Operations Center in Moscow, engineers watched the screens in silence. The point grew larger with each minute. It did not move erratically. It followed a precise trajectory toward Earth. No one understood why. No one could predict its next move. The object was enormous. Dark metallic surfaces reflected the faint starlight. Every panel seemed alive with subtle movements. Human imagination failed to classify it. Technology beyond anything Earth had ever seen. One object, and it was already enough to change the balance of power. News spread quickly. People looked up expecting to see a fleet of ships. But there was nothing visible. Only the sky. Only the quiet awareness that the world had changed. One object was all that mattered, and that was enough. Engineer Alexei Morozov could not sleep. He recalculated the data again and again. Mass trajectory, speed size. Everything matched a single goal. The object was coming for Earth, one object, not many, and that was enough to stop nations in their tracks. Governments prepared for every scenario. Old missile defense systems were activated. Satellites switched to backup modes. Military strategies updated in real time. One object could hold the world in tension without firing a single shot. That alone was enough. Alexei looked at the live feed and saw something unexpected. The object paused as if to measure the reaction of humanity. Every instrument tried to probe it. Every radar signal failed. The ship was impenetrable. One object was enough to test the whole world. People around the globe watched news updates and live streams. Children asked questions their parents could not answer. Scientists debated theories they could not prove. One thing became clear to everyone. Numbers do not always matter. Sometimes a single presence can be stronger than an entire fleet, and this was enough. Alexei turned to the small team in the control room. He spoke quietly. Remember to keep your eyes open and expect the unexpected. This object is teaching us something. And to all viewers watching, this story unfold if you want to see more mysteries and unbelievable events from space. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell. One subscription helps us share more stories like this. By morning, the object moved closer, slowly, deliberately. Each millimeter counted, every motion precise. The world held its breath. One object, one presence. And it was already enough to make the entire planet aware of its vulnerability. Not a fleet, it was enough. By midday, the object hovered closer to Earth. Its enormous dark shape reflected faint sunlight, casting shadows across the atmosphere. People watched from cities and villages, expecting a fleet of ships, but there was only one. One object, and that was enough. Its presence changed everything without firing a single shot. In control centers across the world, scientists and engineers monitored every parameter, trajectory, mass velocity, energy readings. Nothing seemed conventional. Every attempt to communicate failed. The object did not respond in any way humans understood. It simply observed. One object observing, and that alone was enough to challenge all of humanity. Alexei Morozov and Sergei Kovalev worked together analyzing the data. Each minute brought new insights. The object's movement was deliberate but subtle. It tested Earth's defenses indirectly. Satellites went offline one by one. Communication systems experienced intermittent failures. And with each disruption, people realized the truth. One object could paralyze technology and disrupt life without aggression. That was enough. Across the globe, countries exchanged information. Borders and conflicts were temporarily irrelevant. Humanity faced a presence far beyond its comprehension, and still it was only one object. Not a fleet, not a massive armada. One presence, and it was enough to force cooperation. Civilians adapted too. People found new ways to communicate. Older technology like analog radios and signal lamps became crucial. Ships navigated manually. Air traffic used visual guidance. Humanity learned to function in the absence of its usual tools. The lessons were immediate and urgent. One object teaching billions, and it was enough. The object moved again slowly toward the oceans. It did not attack, but its movement had an effect. Tides shifted slightly. Magnetic instruments recorded anomalies. Birds and wildlife reacted in unexpected ways. Every natural system seemed aware. One object interacting with the world, and it was enough to make Humans rethink their place on the planet. Alexei and Sergei realized something profound. Humanity could survive this presence not by force but by observation and adaptation. Cooperation, intelligence, and careful action were stronger than numbers alone. The lesson was clear. One object perfectly placed could teach more than an entire fleet, and that lesson was enough. By evening, the object returned to its previous orbit. Suspended in the sky, it seemed almost contemplative. It had tested the planet and the people. It had measured reactions and responses, and in doing so, it had left an impression that would not be forgotten. One object teaching billions, and that was enough to change the course of thought. The world paused to reflect. The presence of a single unknown force had brought fear, awareness, and unity. Humanity understood something vital. Numbers alone are not strength. Sometimes a single force can change everything, and one object like this was already enough. This was not a fleet, it was enough. Night fell across the planet. The object remained suspended above Earth, enormous and silent. Its surface shimmered faintly under starlight. People looked up expecting to see fleets, weapons, or explosions. But there was only one object, one presence, and that alone was enough to command attention and respect. Alexei Morozov watched the live feed for hours. Every movement, every shift in position was deliberate. It did not attack. It did not communicate in any conventional sense. It observed, it taught. One object teaching billions, and that alone was enough to redefine humanity's understanding of power. On Earth, governments and scientists worked together as never before. Borders, disputes, and politics were temporarily irrelevant. Everyone was focused on observation and adaptation. Satellites were repositioned. Communication lines rerouted. Cities coordinated without digital networks. Humanity learned to function without its usual tools. One object had forced this change, and that was enough. People in cities and towns noticed subtle effects. Animals moved differently. Weather patterns showed minor anomalies. Oceans reacted to gravitational shifts. Even human intuition seemed sharper. The world was learning. The presence of one object was reshaping thinking, cooperation, and awareness. And that alone was enough to leave a mark on history. Alexei and Sergei realized something important. Humanity did not need a fleet to demonstrate strength. Strategy, intelligence, patience, and unity mattered more than numbers. A single object, precisely placed, could challenge billions and leave them stronger than before. One object, and that was enough. The object slowly began to rise higher into orbit. It lingered for a long moment as if giving humanity a final lesson. It was not a fleet, it was not a threat, but its presence had taught the world how to see, how to cooperate, how to survive. One object teaching an entire species, and that was enough. As it disappeared into the darkness of space, people looked up and understood. The lesson would remain. Fear had been replaced by respect. Observation had replaced chaos. Humanity had faced a presence far beyond its comprehension and had learned from it. One object had achieved what fleets and armies could not, and that was enough. Alexei Morozov turned from the monitor and spoke quietly to Sergei. Humanity had been reminded that size does not always equal power. Precision, presence, and intelligence often outweigh numbers. One object had done what no fleet could accomplish, and it had been enough. Planet people returned to their lives changed. They communicated better, worked together, and understood the importance of unity. The memory of the single object remained in every mind. Its lesson clear, its power evident. One object was all it took to alter perception and inspire growth. And that was enough. The sky was empty once more. No fleets appeared. No armies descended. Only the knowledge remained. One object had come, observed, and left. Humanity would never forget. One object, and that was enough.